Welcome to the Fascia-Informed Therapist, the essential podcast for occupational therapy professionals looking to deepen their understanding of fascia's pivotal role in therapy and health. I'm your host, Amy Mayer, an experienced occupational therapist, practice owner, and dedicated educator. Here we'll dive into the fascinating world of fascia, exploring its significance in the human body and its critical influence on occupational therapy practice. Each episode will bring you cutting-edge insights, expert interviews, and practical strategies to help you confidently integrate the science of fascia into your therapeutic approach. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or just starting out, our goal is to equip you with high-quality, evidence-based, and fascia-informed continuing education opportunities that will enhance your skills and benefit your clients. So join us as we unravel the complexities of fascia and transform the way you practice occupational therapy. All health and wellness practitioners are welcome. Let's learn, grow, and evolve together. Hi, this is Amy, and this is another edition of the Fascia-Informed Therapist. And this episode, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to shake out, but there were several things that sort of seemed to weave together this week, and we'll kind of see where it goes. The first topic I want to bring up is something that one of my clients brought up, and I actually had them explain it to the student. And he has mentioned this phrase to me before and used it actually in the context of thinking about working with me, because a friend of mine who's a massage therapist recommended to this person over and over again, you need to go work with Amy. You have issues not only in your muscles, but you have issues in your fascia, and I think she can help. So the phrase that I'm referring to is contempt prior to investigation. And in his life, he learned this phrase and has applied it to many other areas in his life, and really tries to check himself when he's having thoughts about something, especially in a negative way, prior to really understanding that something. He had never heard about fascia and didn't think it was worth the time and the money and the energy to check it out. And then he reminded himself of contempt prior to investigation and decided to give me a try. And it, of course, worked out very well for him. And we didn't just do myofascial work. We did a lot in the area of posture and the area of movement. And it has definitely made a massive difference in his pain and ability to move through life as he is aging. And he's a little bit older than I am. He's in his early 60s. So, so that phrase, I thought it was important for my student to understand the phrase, because she's young, a lot younger than me, but not as young as the typical student. But she had not heard the phrase and found value in understanding it and applying it to life. So it kind of triangulated this week with another activity. I am a member of ACOTE. I think it's important to be a member of your national and state associations. It's definitely benefited me greatly over the years, and especially at the state level. I typically get involved. When I lived in Iowa, I participated in some activities to try and get OT funded in outpatient settings. I know that probably sounds crazy to a lot of you, but yeah, when I was a young therapist, they weren't going to pay for OT in the private practice that I started working in, so changed their minds. Specifically, it was Blue Cross Blue Shield. But anyway, where was I? Where was I going with that? So, participating in your state association. So when I moved to Nebraska, I was part of the board for many, many years, and I am not actively on the board now, but I support the state association by being a member and by presenting at conference if they ask me to. And that has been several years in a row now. So anyway, at the national level, I really haven't done a lot in terms of volunteering for boards or groups or committees, but I have presented at national conference many, many times. But what I do now is I participate in the special interest section, which is the integrative health special interest section, which is pretty new. So if you are an AOT member and you're listening to this, you would probably be an appropriate person to participate in that group. And so the group meets once a month on a Thursday night on Zoom, and we have different topics. Sometimes it's an article, sometimes somebody is presenting. I've presented for the group before, and this particular month we were talking about an article, and we had the primary author there to tell us a little bit about it, and then we just had some conversation. And the article is titled Perceptions and Use of Complementary and Integrative Health Practices Among Rehabilitation Professionals, a survey. So let's see, this was published in 2022 in the European Journal of Integrative Medicine. And most of the respondents are actually in the United States. But what's interesting about this survey is they opened it up to all different kinds of practitioners, but the practitioners that participated were primarily physical therapists. Then there were 34%, and then occupational therapists were 20%, and then physicians were 16%, and then there was a smattering of other participants. And so what they wanted to know was, do you use integrative health approaches in your practice? And these were traditionally practicing practitioners. I was going to say therapists, but I believe there was assistants in the survey as well. So they wanted to know, are you using them? And then if you're not, what barriers or which ones are you using? And I'm just going to summarize. I'm not going to go through the details of this, but you can absolutely look it up. But the bottom line for me was, even though PTs were the biggest participants, but then they looked at who was actually using it. Those are the respondents, but who's using it? Both PTs and physicians were much more likely to speak to their patients about complementary and integrative health practices. PTs were much more likely to use them in their practice over OTs. And that really kind of blew me away, because I think of our profession, OT, as being very holistic and very open, and where there's so much breadth to what we do that using these complementary or integrative approaches would be a normal next step to include, especially when so many people, especially in the United States, and I'm sure in other countries as well, are using them. And if they're using them and we're doing a good interview evaluation with our client or patient, then we should be finding that out. And then if we can turn around and incorporate those things as meaningful activities into their sessions, then that should just be a normal process of what we do. Something else that stood out to me was it was the more senior of the practitioners that were the ones that were using it. So it was, the new graduates weren't doing that. And so the group was kind of it doesn't go into really a lot. It doesn't drill down super deep. Let me look and see quickly here. The most common practices that were being used were breathing practices, meditation, massage, and yoga. And there were others as well, but and some of the barriers to using them were things like time, understanding reimbursement around it, and then education around it, which I thought was interesting. Education in terms of actual what they got in school, and then education as also in terms of continuing education options. So not a ton of drill down besides that. But so the group was hypothesizing on why this might be. Why would PTs be more likely to use these approaches, these integrative approaches, as opposed to OTs? And was it just, the people who happened to answer? We don't know that. But we were talking about the whole idea of confidence, and do PTs have more confidence to say, hey, why not, let's try this, where OTs maybe are a little more rule followers, don't want to get in trouble, don't want to do anything weird because we're already kind of looked at as being different from a lot of other health professions. People don't know what we do. We throw in one more potentially weird thing, then that could potentially even, make us even more outcast than sometimes we are. Maybe. The other piece was, we're so broad-based that we're already doing so many things and trying to help in so many ways that is there really time to add this in as well? And then one of the other people in attendance was saying how she had participated in a survey where they were specifically looking at OTs' openness and opinions and use of essential oils and using them in practice. And she was saying that she was really kind of blown away by some of the responses to their survey. Some of the responses were very aggressive, even like, this is snake oil, you should have your license taken away if you're using these in practice. And I was like, what, really? And another person spoke up who uses them in her practice and said, yeah, there's probably more evidence around using essential oils than there are many, many other things that we do. And so that circled me back to contempt prior to investigation. And I had actually written that down on a little sticky note so that I could put it on my desk at home and remind me this might be a good podcast topic. And did it circle back to this and the conversation that we were having. And I have had similar conversations with therapists and other practitioners about the incorporating the things that I care about, fascia and fascia targeting techniques and approaches. And a big resistance to that I thought was just from the old idea of what fascia is, or the stigma around how it's taught in some avenues. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's just this contempt prior to investigation thing, or maybe it's confidence. Maybe it's you're too busy. I don't know. But here's the even more interesting thing. I was looking over the ACOTE standards that are coming out. The accreditation, if you're not sure what ACOTE is, Accreditation Council for Occupational Therapy Education. So I was the curriculum committee chair when I was at Creighton for many, many years, and so I had to know these standards really well. And just partially out of curiosity, partially getting ready for a presentation I'm doing, I went back and was looking through these standards again. And I'll be darned. In the provide interventions and procedures section, B36, B period 3 period 6 period, recommend and provide direct interventions and procedures to persons, groups, and populations to enhance safety, health, and wellness, chronic condition management, and performance in occupation. This must include the ability to collaborate with the occupational therapy assistant related to interventions and selecting and delivering occupations and activities. And I am actually reading through the doctoral degree level, but this is in all degree levels, including the associate's degree level. So under that, the bullet points are occupations as a therapeutic intervention, interventions to support occupations, including therapeutic exercise, interventions to support well-being, example, complementary and integrative health. And then there's 2 more bullets, interventions to support self-advocacy related to persons, groups, or populations, and virtual interventions. So now, finally, it's included in the ACOTE standards that complementary and integrative health practices should be part of the educational process. Oh my gosh. 10 years ago, 15, oh my gosh, I taught a 3-credit class that was an elective in our post-professional program on integrating these practices into OT, and not just because that I thought we should be doing them, not at all. That's an individual choice that every practitioner should critically think through. Rather, my point was, so many people are doing these things and they are meaningful occupations that we understand a little bit about, in order to potentially weave them into the interventions that we create, the goals that we write, or helping guide them into finding credible practitioners to receive these through if we're not going to learn how to do them ourselves. And I do think we already do so much. There's so much that we do, but at least understanding, get our head wrapped around what's out there so that we can understand. And at that time when I was doing the research for this class, that elective, there was articles talking about how most people don't tell their physician about getting complementary or integrative health practices. They don't tell them about getting acupuncture. They don't tell them about taking supplements because they don't want to be shamed about it. But they're more likely to tell us because of how we approach our evaluation. And so it was so interesting to me to read this article that we talked about at that IHOT special interest group, to say that now physicians are more likely to talk to people about it than the occupational therapy people that answered the survey anyway. So talk about full circle and everything kind of triangulating into these thoughts this week. So one more thought is, one of the big course that I really want OT practitioners to take, or anybody can take it doesn't matter to me, is the science of the human body. And that is not integrative medicine. That is understanding the science of the human body and keeping up to date. And that is also in the Accreditation Council for Occupational Therapy Education, in the old standards and in the new standards, that the standard B11, Human Body Development Behavior, demonstrate knowledge of the structure and function of the human body to include the biological, physical sciences, neuroscience, kinesiological, and biomechanics. Fascia is in all these areas. In the OTPF4, we're expected to have a deep understanding of client factors, including body functions and structures. this is not integrative stuff. This is basic anatomy. And then you can call the myofascial work, you can call cupping, you can call scraping, gua sha, whatever. You can call all that integrative if you want to. But there's a freaking CPT code for myofascial release now. So I'm a little excited about this topic. But anyway, I really do hope that more people who are teaching things like myofascial work will teach it in a way that's palatable to critically thinking, science-based, traditionally practicing practitioners. And I hope these traditional practitioners will also be open to learning and integrating it and giving patients that they work with the opportunity to know what else is out there in terms of what they can do, especially to help manage their pain, but also to feel better and function better. So I think that's where I will wrap this one up. Thank you, as always, so very much for listening. Thank you for tuning in to the Fascia-Informed Therapist. It's been a pleasure sharing insights and strategies to help you integrate fascia science into your practice. I'm Amy Mayer, and I hope today's episode has inspired you to explore further and take your therapeutic skills to the next level. Remember, we're committed to creating and providing top-notch, evidence-based, fascia-informed continuing education that empowers you as an occupational therapy practitioner. Stay connected with us for more enriching content, and don't forget to check out our online courses to deepen your expertise. Until next time, keep expanding your knowledge, refining your skills, and confidently applying the science of fascia to your practice. Here's to advancing together in health and wellness.